On January 24, 2019, former nurse and failed live streamer Tiernan Amato walks into a kitchen covered in blood. He drops 2 shell casings next to the body and looks around to make sure he doesn't miss anything. After that, he uses his father's finger to unlock access to online banking on his iPhone. Now he has the money to spend a few more minutes with the love of his life. Today I'm going to tell you a crazy story about internet addiction, how an obsession with a webcam model led to the murder of an entire family, and how the killer, Tiernan Amato, miscalculated his desperate plan. Since childhood, Tiernan Amato has been a favorite in his family, which also includes 2 older brothers. Grant and his brother Cody are very close and do a lot of things together. They attend Timber Creek High School, attend weightlifting classes, study to become nurse anesthetist together, and even enjoy shooting. Grant dreams of a better life, expensive cars, traveling, beautiful girls. To begin with, he wants to become an anesthesiologist, so he gets a job as a nurse at the Advent Health Orlando Medical Center. But all his dreams are shattered in June 2018, when he is suspended from work on suspicion of stealing medications. Hospital staff also discover 8 empty vials of the sedative propofol in 2 rooms that Grant had been monitoring. According to him, he wanted to help patients who were in terrible pain. However, he was kicked out of his job and school. Although thanks to his parents, he was never officially charged. At the age of 29, Grant returns home to his parents and becomes depressed because all attempts to find a job because of his past fail. His parents notice that Grant has changed and became incredibly gloomy. He spends more and more time playing computer games and watching anime. He is financially supported by his parents and his brother Cody. At some point, Grant decides to make money on streaming platforms by playing games, so he immerses himself even more in the online world, where eventually he finds a webcam modeling space. In July 2018, Grant meets a gorgeous model from Bulgaria named Sylvia Venceslavova, who goes by the pseudonym Sylvie online. From the very beginning, Grant becomes obsessed with Sylvie. He likes her very much and tries to spend as much time with her as possible. But the problem is that Grant pays by the minute for her company, and 1 minute of communication costs him an average of $11. At some point, Grant begins to believe that he and Sylvia are in a serious relationship with a permanent fee. Grant likes to pretend to her that he is a rich and successful gamer. He invents an alternative life for himself that he never had. He buys her different underwear and expensive sex toys. On average, he spends up to 4 hours with her a day. But all this requires a lot of money. So he borrows it from his parents and from Cody, under the excuse that he needs it to promote his account on a streaming platform. After a while, this money becomes insufficient, and Grant starts stealing from his relatives. In a few months, Grant spends more than $200,000. After some time, Grant's father is unhappy with such large expenses and tries to find out where their money goes. A fight breaks out between father and son, and Grant leaves home for a while. During this period, he lives with his aunt, from whom he will later start stealing money from her credit cards in order to continue to communicate with Sylvia. While their son is away from home, his parents log on to Grant's computer and learn the bitter truth. In fact, Grant is not spending the money on his career, but on some girl who fulfills his fantasies on camera. His aunt also notices that the money is missing. In order to avoid going to the police, Grant's father returns the money, but gives him an ultimatum. If Grant wants to continue living in their house, he must undergo treatment for internet addiction. After talking to his brother Cody, Grant agrees to these conditions and goes to treatment. Grant travels to a very expensive private clinic in Fort Lauderdale, where he will undergo a 60-day course of treatment. But in 2 weeks, he will return home, telling his family that he is completely cured. During this time, Grant's family hacked into his computer and gained access to all his dialogues with Sylvia. They told her the truth, that Grant was an addict, and that everything he had told her about his rich life was just a beautiful fiction. They told her how he stole money to communicate with her. This was a very big blow for Amato. He writes a letter to his friends in which he admits that he cannot lose the love of his life, Sylvia, because of the cruelty of his father and brother, who control everything. But that's not all. New rules await Grant upon his arrival home: limited access to the internet, and most importantly, a ban on communication with Sylvia. The only place he can write to her is on Twitter, but Sylvia does not respond to his messages. Apparently, this is becoming unbearable for Grant, and he is planning to do something terrible. On January 25, 2019, Cody Amato does not come to work, where he was scheduled for surgery. It's not like him at all, so his colleagues start texting him and calling his phone, but it's turned off. This worries them, and they call the police to come to his home and find out if he's okay. The police arrive and knock on the door, but no one answers. Meanwhile, the family car is parked outside the house, so the police decide to break down the door and enter the house. When they get inside, they see a terrible picture. The father of the family, Chad, is lying on the kitchen floor, covered in blood. Apparently, after the first shot, he was still alive and trying to escape by crawling on the floor. His mother, Margaret, is sitting at the computer with a bullet wound in the back of her head. And his brother, Cody, is lying in the hallway with a bullet hole in his skull, with a gun by his side. It looked as if Cody had killed his mother and father, but several oddities strike the police at once. The holster on his father's belt is clean, unlike the rest of his clothes, and is fixed in a very strange position. All but one of Chad's fingers is covered in blood. Also, Cody does not have the characteristic burn on his face from the close-range shooting. The police also learned from neighbors that another resident of the house, Grant Amato, left the house last night at 7 o'clock. The police find him at the Doubletree Hostel and bring him in for questioning. At the same time, Grant calmly answers questions about his life, his history with Sylvia, his career as a gamer, and at the same time, never asks why he was taken to the police station.
So how much do you think you spent?
Probably close to like $200,000.
After he learns about the death of his family, he puts forward his own version of the incident. Grant says that he and his father had a conflict the day before. His father gave him an ultimatum. Either he returns to the clinic and undergoes the entire treatment program, or he leaves home forever. His father threatened to kill him if he returned. Grant got angry, packed his things in his car, and drove away. He texted Cody about what had happened. He came right away, and Grant met him shortly after. Cody promised to make sure that his father did not bother him anymore. As the interrogation continues, Grant becomes more and more confused in his testimony. He is confused about the time when he left home, and after a while, he claims that he met his brother at home and not on the way home.
So is it true that you still met Cody up the block, or was that?
No.
So you didn't meet him up the block? So why did you tell us that?
I don't know.
For investigators, this is all very strange. Grant Amato is released, but a few hours later, he is detained again and charged with murder. Grant becomes the main suspect after the surveillance footage shows that no one else had entered the house, and suspicions of Cody were cleared almost immediately. There were no traces of gunpowder on Cody's clothes. His face did not show the characteristic burns of a close-range shooting, and most importantly, the shell casings on the floor were not from the bullets found in the bodies of the victims. Gloves with traces of gunpowder were found in Grant's hotel room, and a note, allegedly written by Cody, was found in his car. Later, Grant will say that he wrote it himself, using Cody's words, so as not to forget anything. In fact, immediately after the murder, Grant writes to Sylvia, paying for the conversation with his brother's card. Also, after the murder, there is a history of his father's online banking login. This is probably why one of his fingers was not covered in blood, so that he could unlock the iPhone. In the search history on Grant's tablet, there's a query about how to unlock the iPhone. Investigators do not find the gun from which the bullets were fired, but the caliber matches the gun of Grant's friend, Blake Turpin, who discovered the gun was missing sometime later. Most likely, his parents' ban on communication with Sylvia was the last straw for Grant. He carefully plans the murder. To do this, he goes to his friend's house and steals a gun. On January 24, shortly before his father arrives, he shoots his mother in the head as she sits at her computer. Then he waits for his father and shoots him twice in the kitchen. He sends a message to Cody and waits for him at the door. After he has done this, he goes to the yard of the house and fires 4 shots in the air with Cody's gun, and the neighbors hear it, picks up the shell casings and replaces them, fastens the holster to his father's belt, and unlocks his iPhone with his finger. After cleaning it of blood, he takes Cody's card and leaves the house. Half an hour later, he contacts the love of his life, but by this point, she has lost all interest in him. On August 12, 2019, Amato was found guilty on all 3 counts of first-degree murder, receiving a life sentence for each of them. When asked if he felt remorse, Amato said, "My family has been accusing me for months of ruining their lives, stealing and not following the rules of the house, so I might as well be accused of that." Do you think that if the family had acted differently, they would still be alive?